All of you know this, but inside the North Point Government Center, there's a great theater that holds 650 people. We have a large community theater. We take everyone. Everybody who wants to be a part of that program can be in it. We have a spring show and a fall show. We have over 50 people in each production. We have a live orchestra, which is all volunteer. We incorporate people with disabilities into our program, and everybody is included, invited. We've been doing this for 20 years. Besides that program, 20 years. Thank you so much. Can't believe it, but it's true. We also have another theater program, Berkshire program. Ms. Dolores Terzi's here representing that program. And Jennifer Morgareth is the director of that program, just for people with disabilities that meet in that center. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen those productions. We've been doing those every year. We also have a choral program, a show choir program that meets there. We have a summer camp. Rachel Baird is the director of that every summer for children in that theater. We also have an experimental theater project, and that's for new playwrights. We produce their shows. That's in that theater. Nick, I'm sure you all also know that the Sweet Adelines under Bev Bruning meets there in that theater. And of course, the Chesapeake Dick Dodds is here from the chorus. So that if you don't know that that theater is inside that building, it is. And we invite all of you to be part of it, because we're getting ready to do our next production, which is Guys and Dolls. And come out and support us. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you that's who I am, Debbie Steigerwald. And we have lots of other people here who want to say something about who they are. So I'm going to introduce Rich.
Right. Yeah, and folks, if you need more space, then we'll be happy to give up our chairs. But my name is Rich Foote, and I've been a resident here for about 12 years. And my family's in the back. And I taught at Dundalk High School for about 8 years. You may be familiar with a little-known website called Foote's Forecast, and read by a few people in the United States today. Well, it started just right across the street at Dundalk High School by a Dundalk student. So that is a Dundalk original. And the point of that story is it's not about me. The students were the ones who actually came up with the idea, not me. And just like what we're doing here today, this is an idea that was brought to us by others. And so we just, it's a great opportunity to stand with all of you, Dundalk United, because we all have great stories about our communities. And my family has had a wonderful time being here for 12 years. And my wife is in the school system. My children are at Eastwood Elementary, so they are in, I keep forgetting their grades now because they keep growing up so fast. It's third grade and first grade. So I have two students in the school system. They are, as I like to say, they are Dundalk girls. They are born and bred here in this town, right? So Eastwood Elementary is just one of the 3 schools being affected, and the part of the meeting that I'm dealing with towards the back, if there's room to sneak back there later, is that you can visit what I call the Baltimore County table. I'm very familiar with the school system. There are many folks here that also are as well and have more experience than I do. So I'm not claiming to be an expert, but as Debbie had mentioned earlier, and I'll pass it back to her in a moment, is that we're here to give you factual information based on what we know. So it's just like a weather forecast, right? If we tell you 2 feet of snow for Baltimore, you're going to say, okay, explain more. And we'll say, here are the facts, here's what we know, here's what we don't know. That's really the purpose of today's meeting, is to discuss factual information. What I'm relating to you is in the outline that we have there. So we had our opening remarks, right? We wanted to introduce the Spirit Center. I'm going to be at the Baltimore County table. Afterwards, if you want to speak, ask me some questions, and I can show you the information that has been given to us as teachers and as educators. And I'm sorry, also Holabird. So can I just do a shout out to my colleagues here? If you're from Eastwood, give us a clap. Okay. And if you're from Norwood, give us a clap. Right, they are very motivated. They just like to keep, keep quiet. Right? And Holabird, if you're from Holabird or connected with the Holabird community, fantastic. That's right. That's right. Well, they're out salting the roads for the next storm. That's why they're not here. Right. And then anybody from Dundalk High School? There you go. Dundalk Middle School. Stricker isn't Dundalk, so I have to You know, anybody from Sugar? Grange, Sandy Plains. Okay. Anybody I missed? Water's Edge. Stars Point. Pasco. I guess there are a few schools in the southeast area. That's a neat idea. So anyway, the point is, you see where we're going with this, that we are all in this together. This is our town, this is our community. So I'm a teacher, I can talk a lot, so I need to stop now. But I'm going to pass it over to Debbie. And our procedure for the questions, we'll discuss that, and we'll have the index cards. So folks, if you have an index card, I'm sorry, we have the index cards. If you have a question, just raise your hand, and one of us will bring you a card. Okay, and then we'll go from there. So, ma'am?
Okay, the one thing that we didn't talk about that we need to talk about is that some of you see these shirts, Dundalk United. What really that is we're just trying to form a coalition, a loosely based coalition of organizations and communities within Dundalk, our area, coming together to try to share information and bring the people together. That's all it is, and we hope you'll all be a part of it. Our main way that we're communicating with everybody is Facebook. I'd like to introduce Michelle Boyer right there, Michelle. Michelle runs our Save the North Point Government Center page. I hope you've all visited that page. There's lots of great information on there, and it's a way for everybody to put how they feel about what's going on there. We have over 850 people on that page so far. That's a lot, you know. Then we also have Dundalk United now have a Facebook page. So if you go to Save the North Point Government Center, then you can go on Dundalk United's page. It's just a way for us to communicate, keep everybody informed. John, did you want to speak right now? Okay, well, I'm going to let John speak.
Once again, this is John Long. I am the founder and president of Clean Bread in Cheese Creek, and I'm also a member of many local organizations here in the Dundalk area. Who here loves Dundalk? Come on! Yeah. Who here is tired of us being the back seat to Baltimore County? All right. Think about it this way. During the War of 1812, when the British decided they were going to try and take back America, they came D.C., which was protected by a professional army, and they marched right in and burned it down to the ground. Now, they tried to come to Dundalk, and Dundalk was mostly protected by militia and volunteers. And guess what? We stopped them dead. This is what the spirit of Dundalk has always been. Doesn't matter if a professional army couldn't do it, we do it. I know a lot of us here have had relatives who worked in the steel mills, who gave their lives in the steel mills. I lost both my grandfathers from the steel mills. And they built the ships that helped us win World War II. And there was a lot of pride here. And there's still a lot of pride here. And I'm pretty tired of everybody not giving us a say, not asking our opinion, just assuming that they know what's best for Dundalk, and they don't even live in Dundalk, most of them. Now, I know 99% of you all are here for the same reason. I know some of you aren't here for that reason, but I know 99% of you are here for that reason. And this whole coalition has started because we've seen way too many things in our community change without our input. We've seen too many structures that we know and love disappear without our input. And now we want a way to get information out to the people. This is just the first, I'm sure, of a series of challenges to let you know whenever there's public zoning hearings, to let you know whenever there's meetings, asking for public opinion so you can speak your mind and let your opinion know. I appreciate everybody being here. I see a lot of my volunteers from Clean Bread and Cheese Creek here, and that's incredible because I tell you what, you know, people bust on Dundalk and nothing irritates me more. I have done cleanups in Towson, I've done them in Owings Mills, I've done them all throughout the Baltimore County area as well, but you know what? You never see people work as hard as you do in Dundalk. They get in the streams, they get in the streets, and they are covered head to toe in filth and trash and stinky water. And you know what? The entire time, they're laughing and joking and putting their back into it. And then, when you give them pizza or something like that, they thank you. To me, that says a lot about the spirit of Dundalk. So, with that said, I guess I'll be back when we want to start going through the RFP. So, I'll give this over to Mr. Foote then. Thank you all very much for coming.
So again, if you want to speak it with John about the RFP, then he's going to be at that back corner table. If there's 2 square inches. Yeah, I know, I understand. I just to make sure that they know that later on, if afterwards, if you are looking for John after your discussion, then he'll be in the back corner. I'll be back there. And then the one thing we're going to point out here is the index card. So if you have a question, what we're going to do is move into our public questioning session. So what we'd like to do is there's a couple of us.
The RFP first will answer a lot of questions.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I understand. Teachers, teachers have a tendency to get people. That's right. Is that we just want to start having you think about your questions as you're hearing the information that John and others are going to present. And so what we're going to do is pass around these cards. We just ask you to put your name on there and your community and your topic. So as you're hearing people say things, you go, and then you can write your question down, and then you would give that to one of us, because we'd like to respectfully, recognize you and say, Mr. Jones from, Bear Creek would like to say something. Okay, and that way we all have a sense of who's here, and just to respectfully introduce you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Right, exactly, sir. And I'm glad he pointed that out, because there was a meeting last week that someone you might know well went over 3 minutes. It was me. So I'm not going to do it this time. Right. Ma'am?
Okay, so do we want to go over the RFP? Okay, well, let's get a copy. Do you have it, John? Okay.
All right, the RFP is, as I said, it's available online. It was released earlier this week. We have a few summary copies back there, and we also have some hard copies too with sections highlighted. Now, the RFP states there will be 3 properties that are coming up for sale, but I know that most of us here are concerned about the North Point Government Center. It looks like this. If you are looking online, it is RFP number P-101, sale of Baltimore County property. And the North Point Government section is section 2.3. Now, I can tell you, like I said, this is what I do for a living, is I respond to federal RFPs. If something is not written in an RFP, it does not exist. Assumptions do not exist. The government tells us that all the time when we're asking questions. If we say to them, well, can we assume A equals B in this point? If it's not written there, there's no assumption, which is why they usually will allow a question and answer period on most RFPs for about 2 weeks, and then after that they will file an addendum to answer most of those questions. There is no question and answer period that I saw released for this, so they don't apparently appear to be putting out an addendum. The first part of this RFP is simply the location, which is everybody knows where it's at. The second part is the ownership. Now, the third part is where we start to get our concerns. Section 2.33. It says within that section, the existing communication tower, which the county will retain, would potentially impact the use balance of the site. Now, a lot of people asked about the tower. It's not going to be moving. We know that for a fact. When the tower was placed there, we were told it was placed there by the police station so that way it could have 24-hour surveillance and be protected. We were told it is very important for our emergency medical and police services in this area, so we had to maintain its security. So there is no provision in the proposal saying that the bidder must continue to secure the tower. There's no provision in it that says that Baltimore County will continue to secure the tower. Now, once again, as I said, if it's not in the RFP, you cannot make an assumption. Next section that we have concern over is section 2.34, which says replacement requirement. Now, under the replacement requirement, it says suitability of replacement facilities and relative quality of the replacement proposals will be determined by a committee. That means they tell us that if they'll replace the fields or the facilities for our community programs. Whether that is equitable with what is currently there will be determined by a committee. It does not say who will be on the committee. It does not say citizens will have any input on the committee. It does not even say that residents or businesses in the area will even have an input in the committee. Now, when we posed this question, they said this answer is, to Baltimore County, they said this answer is not known at this time who will be on the committee. Once again, you can't assume that citizens will have an input on it. It doesn't say it. If it said it in here, that a citizens panel or local residents would be involved in the decision-making committee, as if the structure and the fields were equal, you can say it's true, but it's not written in the RFP. So we could potentially be left completely out of the decision-making property as to whether what is being offered is equal with what we had. Next section is zoning, section 2.35, in which it says, offerers can include an assumption that the county and county council will support a proposed planned unit development on this property, PUD. Now what that means is if somebody were to come up and say, hey, you know, I've got a great idea, I want to turn this into an industrial park. You guys are already upgrading the road base to a 9-inch road base, which is more than standard traffic level, right in front of the center. You've got a lot of heavy industrial employees here who don't have jobs. So I'm going to put in an industrial center. Now, even though it is currently zoned as dense residential, if the county accepts the planned unit development, or the PUD, that completely short-circuits the current zoning, which means that just because it's currently dense residential doesn't mean it will stay that way if a PUD unit development is accepted. So essentially, almost anything could be put there if that is accepted by the county, whether you want it there or not.
Excuse me, John. You need to tell people what PUD is.
That's what I said, planned unit development.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. The last section is the one that bothers me and most of my volunteers absolutely the most, and most of you. 2.36, environmental constraints. It appears that the site contains no major streams or wetland, and there is no known significant unusual environmental conditions or environmental constraints impacting the utility of this property. Anybody who's been to the property knows there's a stream that runs right next to it. And this is trying to tell us there is no stream there. Lynch Cove Run runs into Bear Creek. Bear Creek is a historic body of water which was very important during the War of 1812. Several community groups are involved in trying to get an established historic blue trail through Bear Creek, which is a kayaking, boating, and it'll highlight the beauty of Bear Creek as well as how the Bear Creek area was used by the British when they tried to take North Point during the War of 1812. Now, to me, to say there's no stream at all there is a bit of a concern. In December of this past year, 2012, Baltimore County contracted the environmental consulting firm of Parsons Brinkerhoff to do a small watershed action plan study of Bear Creek and Old Road Bay, also called a SWAP. In that SWAP, which is also available online on the Baltimore County website, it noted Lynch Cove Run as a critical stream that required additional buffer area to what's currently there. Now, there's a decent amount of buffer there, and they're saying it needs more. If we pave it over and we put concrete on it, how much of a buffer area is going to be there then? So there's contradictions right there, because we've got a environmental analysis that was contracted by Baltimore County that says there's a stream there and it needs to be watched out and taken care of, and then in the RFP it says there's no stream there. So that's another concern. That pretty much is the end of the sections that actually do affect North Point completely. The entire proposal has several other things in it, which is a lot of standard language for RFPs, but you guys can all take your time and read through it. Those are the main sections. We have proposals at the back table with the sections I spoke of highlighted, and we also, like I said, they're available online.
John,
Sure.
can you say, because it says in there when the bids are due and the cost?
Oh, sure,
Can you
sure,
tell everybody?
sure. Also on the RFP, request for proposal, it says that bids for this property are due on 4/05/2013 at 3 p.m. It says there will be a pre-proposal conference on January 30th, 2013 at 9:30 a.m. There's also an email address for Mr. Jason Stevenson and a phone number if you have any questions. So, once again, I appreciate everybody, and remember, you cannot make any assumptions in an RFP. If it is not written in an RFP, people can say, well, you know we're going to do this, or we know you're going to, or you can assume it doesn't matter unless it's in writing in this RFP, or unless it's in writing from an addendum that follows. Okay. Thank you all very much for your time. If you have additional questions about the RFP, you can ask me.
Thank you, John. That was great. We really appreciate it. One thing that we know, so we know that they have until April the 5th to bid on the property, and then we've been told that the county council has to approve it, and the county council is going to have 3 months. Isn't that correct, John? That we've been told 3 months that they will have to decide on the fate of the property. We know that the plan is that the government center will be sold. Eastwood Elementary is going to be turned into the police station. They're moving the plan is to move the police station to Eastwood Elementary. And then they are going to take the children from Eastwood Elementary and they are going to put them at Hollowbird Middle and Norwood. And that will be combined, and it will either be a K through 8 school or a 4th grade through 8th school. We've been at that meeting and that's what we were told. That's basically what we know. You want to, and okay, Richard's going to talk about that.
And, yeah, so I'm going to try to set the example here. Does anybody have a timer?
All our phones
Okay. Okay. So there's some. Okay. Ready? 3 minutes. Set. Go. Okay. So I have a nice. One of our volunteers is going to get the Baltimore County letter, and I'm just going to very briefly go over this because Miss Debbie made an excellent point that Eastwood and Norwood, of course, and North Point Government Center are all related. They're all interconnected, and there's a lot of things, and we know you folks are going to have a lot of questions. So this is just. Again, like John had the RFP, and if you can give me a 1-minute warning, that'd be good. So this is a document that we can get a copy for you if you'd like. This is a letter that was sent home to children in their folders Friday, I believe, and there's a 3-pager here, and it just says Eastwood, Hollowbird, Norwood Community Questions and Responses. So I know my time is going to run out, so what I'm going to be doing is just telling you the way this happened. Essentially was December 10th, there was a community meeting at Hollowbird Middle School. It was not published in the Eagle. It was not published in the East County Times. There was not a 2-week notification process to notify the public of the consideration of a proposed school closing. So those are words that are in state law, and they're also in the letters, and they're also in other documents that we have. And the point is that, so what the parents did was there was a process that went forward, and the parents were asked to come at different input meetings and ask questions. And submit those questions to the county. And then what the county did was summarize the questions on this. This is a 3-pager, but this is the basic ones, okay? And so we'll just give you an example. Will Eastwood and Norwood keep their individual school names? There are 2 proposals, and what I'm going to do after I speak is I'm going to go up on the board and just do a very quick summary up there of Plan A and Plan B on how the school situation, because some of you may not be familiar with it. But so one of the questions that many parents asked, including my own, because I have children that went to Norwood and Eastwood, was that question, and the answer from the county stated here, based on the final decision regarding option A or B, 1 minute, or any viable options, the superintendent will comply with Board Education Policy 7520, naming of the building and dedication. So, of course, as a parent, I'm going to go take a look at Board Policy 7520 and see what it says. And the other thing I want to take a look at for myself, and we can show you, is was Policy 7520 changed at any point recently prior to this announcement? And so this is a question that I have, and I don't have the answer because honestly I haven't looked, but I will. And so if you'd like to discuss more about the Eastwood Norwood situation, I'll be in the back table. There's other colleagues here of mine that know a lot about this as well. But when we give you an answer, we're either going to tell you this is what the county has told us, or we will say, I don't know. All right. So, oh, okay. Well, thank you all for being so cooperative. And I'm going to do the AB summary on the board, and I'll pass it back to Ms. Debbie.
All right, well, are we ready for the questions? Are we ready for a statement? Are we ready? We are ready. Does anybody have a question? Can you pass that? Can you come? You want to come up, ma'am? Okay. This is from Sandra from Colgate. And I want to say this right now. We don't have all the answers, you know. We only know what we've told you. But we're going to talk about it, and we'll have what we can. But this is this lady's question. If the police department was moving somewhere in the center of the community it serves, I have no problem with that. Why is it moving near the city line off Eastern Avenue? That is not inside the community. That does not serve the community from the inside out. And that's a very good point, ma'am. And I think that we can put these questions on our Facebook page. And I think they're very relevant. Yes?
If I may, I believe the move to Eastwood is a temporary move.
We have not been told that.
Yeah.
No.
If it's in writing.
We have not been told that, no. No.
From the newspaper, it said that when the Eagle that it was moving over there, no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
I understand it's moving, but I've been told that.
We have not been told. There's been nowhere it's been stated it's temporary. No. Mm-mm. Next question.
Mark, a couple of my friends are officers across the street. Sir? A couple of my friends are officers across the street. They've been told that is a permanent move over there. It is a permanent move. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. What about the fireworks? Great question. Great question. And, you know, people say fireworks, what? But as we all know, the fireworks are very important to our community. Thousands of people come. All of us come. All of us spend money. It helps the businesses. It brings us all together. It's important to us, and this is our community. Very good question. I've got some more here. Any prospective buyer who would require the fields for their operation would obviously operate enough activity and traffic to necessitate additional traffic signals to allow for traffic to exit property making a left turn. I'm sure all of that, that's a very good question or statement. But it's valid. Of course, there's going to be more traffic, there's going to be more everything. We don't know. We don't know what's going to be there. Does Comar regs allow the school at Eastwood to be sold? I don't know that answer. John? Rich? Does Comar, and that's the state laws. Do you know?
A 30-second answer. Okay. There's two schools of thought. Idea number one is that the school board will make a final decision, and then there is a process that is gone through by the state law on how that would be handled. And then there's another school of thought, which simply says that the school board perhaps doesn't need to inform you until the decision has been made that a decision is being considered. That's as fast as I can summarize it. And I can tell you, to answer the last question, the board president on December 18th on the video said no information has been given to the board about the closing of a school at the board meeting. So it's just interesting.
Okay, we have another question. Where will replacement fields, a theater, etc. be located? Will replacements be built before the North Point is shut down? We don't know. They've been told, we've been told, I've been told that decision has not been made.
Who does know? Who knows?
Well, Johnny Sr.'s here, so he might know. We can certainly ask him. You certainly may, sir. And welcome to the meeting.
First of all, you have to excuse my appearance here today. My son, Delegate Oshesky, and I, we had a pre-planned vacation that we took. I got notice of the meeting yesterday, but Johnny and I thought it was so important to be at the meeting that we cut our vacation short to be here to tell you what's going on. With my position, first of all, I just want to tell everybody that, as you know, I've been your elected representative for 14 years. I think over those years, I've listened, I heard your concerns, and I acted on those concerns. And I have had discussions with the administration about this, contrary to what the paper has said. They took some words out of context from my aide in the office. But I will tell you that my discussions with the administration, I have said that if the programs are not replaced at least the equal level or better, and fields are not replaced, then I will not be able to support it, period. And so I'm here today, that's why it was so important for me to be here today to state that fact.
John,
Sure.
excuse me, but we need that before anything's taken away.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. What are they taking away? Hold on a second. If you listen to what I just said, I am not going to let them take anything away unless it is replaced with something that is equal or better to what is going on now. And, hold on a second. There's a proposal, there's a process, and when the proposals are put in, that's when we'll know what people are proposing. And if the proposals don't meet the standards that you and I agree to with replacements, then I won't support it, period.
We appreciate that.
Hold on a second. And you talk about vacant buildings and people talk about the shopping center right across the street, okay? The owners of that shopping center had it leased for 15 years. They just took the shopping center back and they were investing major dollars, millions of dollars into the shopping center. As you can tell, they've already started. They tore down the gas station, they tore down can I finish, please? They tore down the gas station, they tore down the car wash, they tore down the brake place that was an eyesore and the tire place. They've gated it up, they put trees around, they're still redoing their facade. They have a plan in place to redo the whole shopping center. That is what's happening right now. They have an anchor that's going to go right there on the corner where it used to be. We have to look for economic development. We've lost jobs at Bethlehem Steel, we lost jobs at General Motors, and if we have an opportunity that if everything is met, the rec programs, I grew up in the rec council programs. You think I'm going to let something happen detrimental to our kids? Absolutely not. So that's why I thought it was so important to come back here today and let you all know that that's where I'm coming from. I also want to put to bed misinformation and rumors about my position. That's why I'm here today.
Well, we thank you.
You're
thank
quite
you,
welcome.
John. We really appreciate it. Because we know that you're a very powerful councilman in the county council, and we need you. We are counting on you to help us and support us. And we thank you. Wait a minute. Everybody, wait a minute. One thing that I was trying to say is what we wanted to say is that we don't want to hear that down the road they're going to replace it. We don't want to hear that down the road that's going to happen. We want things before anything's taken away from us. That's the point we're trying to make. And one more thing. We want to be part of the decision.
That's right.
We want our voices to be heard. We want to be part of it.
And you will be.
Okay, thank you. And that's great. We
And
thank
you
you.
always have been.
No, we haven't.
We don't,
All right.
please, guys, we want to be respectful. Please. We need John on our side.
I am on your side.
And that's
I've
why
always been on your side.
and that's why we're so glad you're here. And we really are.
I think that
I mean, it was that important day. I mean, as you know, I got a notice yesterday, and we cut it short so we could be here today. I know how important it is.
I think the citizens of the community of Dundalk would feel a lot better off if they knew that they would have space equal to what they're losing and fields equal to what they're losing before they lose what currently have, and that the citizens, not representatives of the city, but the citizens' community themselves would have input in deciding if the equality to what is being offered is equal to what is being lost, not being told for them.
Thank you.
I have the answer.
Here's the
I'm sorry. And Mr. Long, I just have to let you know that that's why they have a process. It's called RFPs, Request for Proposals, and it's called SFPs for Proposals. You just can't say to somebody, you come here and give me a plan. You have to be transparent about it, and you have to have a process.
But John,
And that's what the process is.
excuse me, but
And if you heard what I said that I was not going to support anything that wouldn't replace the programs at the level they're at or better, or any of the fields. And that's something that will be discussed. Once the proposals are in, we can discuss it. I don't know what the proposals are going to be. I don't know what people are going to do.
But John, I think people are so angry because it was put up for sale without, we didn't have any input into that.
When you say it's put up for sale, it doesn't mean it's on the market that it's going to sell like you sell a house. Somebody comes in and the reason it's up for sale, because part of the process is you have to have proposals.
But we weren't consulted. We didn't know.
Okay.
We found out in the paper.
Here's the other thing. Let's say we don't do anything with that building. Nothing. Sooner or later, that building is aged, and with the economy the way it is, and with money having to be put in buildings, if they don't have the money, and then they're trying to save money, build what somewhere?
I represent one of the local recs. We actually been putting a proposal to get the basement space of that rec center to expand because of how many kids that we got from the community. We have over 100 kids.
I understand that.
I know, but we were denied that space even though that we were going to put our own money into it. Not even county money, our own money into it to expand and to rehab it.
Well, let me ask you all this: if a proposal came out and there was let's say there was a new building or it doesn't even have to be a new building. If it was a newer building and your programs were in there and you had, your kids were playing in a gym that wasn't dingy and has mold in it, you got roofs leaking, all that stuff's happening at that building. I don't know if you know it or not.
We're in the building.
The air conditioning and the heating, it's costing all of us money because of the outdated system that's there. And the county is not going to reinvest in that building. So sooner or later, they're going to do something with that building. That's just the reality. And if we can have an opportunity to better our programs, have a better place for our kids and our adults, of course, the Chesapeake, sky's the limit. If we can have that through a proposal, then there's nothing wrong with that. And the alternative is if we don't do anything, then one day they're going to say, well, we're not going to do anything with that building anymore. It's costing us too much money. And then what do we do with the building?
They can't do that. They can't do it.
Okay.
It's open space, we know.
John, you know me. You and I played ball together for a lot of years. We worked together. I know Sonny Minnick. The problem with this whole scenario is simply this. Number one, this has been going on for months, and this county was not informed. Okay, we know for a fact that it happened back in the summertime, but everybody sitting in this room, nobody found out till a month ago. Yep. Okay, that's the problem. It's a lot of stuff going on, and we are not being kept informed. Secondly, you're tearing down 2 brick buildings, which brick's not going to come down, and you keep saying how old North Point is. when you got Patapsco Neck Elementary sitting right up the road that's 20 years older than North Point, and that's standing fine. They gutted that. They can gut that building over there a lot cheaper than turning around and knocking down 2 brick buildings and turning around and moving the police station all the way over on the city, to the city line where I live in Water's Edge. And I remember when Sparrows Point moved up to North Point, they said the response time's going to be so much longer. I drove truck for a lot of years. I sold real estate in this area for a lot of years. And I know one thing, if you're in the middle of Eastern Avenue in the middle of rush hour, good luck. How them police is going to respond.
Hold on a second, Mark. When you talk about police time, that's when we should have the police captain, the police chief here. He's the one who works with it on a day-to-day basis. He's the one who knows about public safety. And do you think for 1 second he's going to put public safety at fault for? Here's the other thing. When you talk about response time, those cars ain't going from the precinct to the neighborhoods. Each of those neighborhoods have patrol cars. Those patrol cars are already around that neighborhood. So when you say to me, we're going to lose response time, why? Those cars are still going to be in the same areas they're patrolling now, Mark. It's just going to be the same. When they have shift changeovers, they have cars that are out there that are different than when they have shift changeover.
And 1 minute, let me finish this. John, if they're out on a call, they can't drop everything and run to another call. I know about the shift changes. I know about the police. I've dealt with them.
Okay.
But if they're out on the call, they can't drop something and run all the way across town.
So if you have shift change and you have a call right here in the middle of Dundalk and something happened in Eastwood, what are you telling me?
I'm saying if somebody, they're on the call over here.
Yeah.
Okay,
right now.
Turn around the traffic.
Okay, Mark. But if that shift car is on a call in Eastwood, right? And there's something down here, are you? That's
so each area's got their own cars.
They do. Each area has their own cars. They do.
Say Eastwood's going to be favored by moving the police station, and then say that the rest of the community's not going to be affected.
I didn't say that because of the move, Eastwood's going to be a safer community. People may believe that because the police station is right there in there. That police station is right there in your neighborhood. That's all.
All right, we're going to change subject, Kim.
What?
I was wondering, what about the transparency in the schools? Anything that we have been told has not given us a question. We have been asked to make decisions on something we don't even know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
You're moving children that are 5 years old to children that are 13. That is everything from Santa to sex. I'm sorry. That is a drastic age difference.
I hear what you're saying, but I hear what you're.
I feel like I live in the city. Everything from K to 8, taking away police stations, taking away fire stations.
Taking away rec
I live in the county. I don't want to live in the city because of stuff.
Nobody is taking nothing away from anybody.
Okay.
That's what I keep hearing.
Okay.
But let me address. Can I address? Let me address the question. I have control over what can happen at the government center. It has to come to the council. We have a superintendent and we have a board of education, and they are charged. Mr. Ed Parker's here. He'll tell you he served on the board of education. You still are, correct? And they have issues that they have to deal with. Some of them are overcrowding in schools, which is happening now. This is part of the. If the government center went away, I'm not so sure that the Eastwood issue would go away because they're trying to fix a problem at Howard Middle School, which is under capacity. And if the superintendent and the Board of Education make a decision, I don't have the power to overturn that decision, do I, Ed? Thank you.
All right, folks, excuse me, folks. We want to have questions from the community that have been written on the cards be spoken to the group, so we have, again, transparency that your voices are heard, so that our distinguished councilman can answer those questions, or someone like Mr. Parker can address those. So if you don't mind...
And I'll be here as long as you need to, I'm sorry.
That's all right, but I'm going to play the teacher for a moment and say, we need to follow procedure, okay, or I will be getting in trouble with, Mrs. Foot. So, I understand. But there are questions here on the table, and we're going to read the questions, and if you ask that question, okay, then we want to make sure that answer gets out to you. So we've categorized them. Yes, that's right. We've categorized them, okay?
I appreciate the link.
So here's one question. I'm put your name on here. If the building is not sold with money, then they are if the building is not sold with the money that's expected, so there's the expectation that money will be produced from the sale of a building. Oh, that's Ms. Piper. You can relate it better than me, so go ahead.
The building's up for sale, and they said if they don't get enough money, that nothing's going to be processed. But why involve the school? Why don't they take the police station and move it to Diamond Point, where there's vacant buildings, and not involve all these innocent children and their families and their lives
I can answer
and their
that.
future?
Okay.
All right, well, part of my answer to that is I answered it at the school part with the superintendent. In other words, if you take the equation out, they still may do that, and I can't do anything about it. I can be an advocate to say I don't want it to happen, but at the end of the day, if they make that decision is from your superintendent and your Board of Education. As for Diamond Point, as for Diamond Point, I just found out somebody bought Diamond Point. I don't know all the details. A Chinese company bought it. They're going to put a furniture store or something in there. So that does away with Diamond. We need more Chinese. But then if you do a Diamond Point,
we are all Americans. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So, Ms. Piper, did you got some information? Okay, so here's a question from someone in Colgate. And again, this Ms. Harris, if you're here. But the question was, if the police department was moving somewhere in the center of the community that it serves, Halliburton Wise, I think that's the center of the 7th District. Why is it moving near the city line off Eastern Avenue? That is not inside the community, that does not serve the community from the inside out. That was Mrs. Harris' question. And it is the question other parents had, was the relative geographical location of the police station 90% further distant from the rest of the community. I know that we discussed the transportation.
I think that's a question that the superintendent, the Board of Education can probably answer, given their input of why they come to that conclusion.
Right.
I wasn't privy to this discussion.
Right. So that's the delineation between the school and the government. So that's the question there. Here's another one recreation areas. We're just covering a couple of school questions. What happens to recreation areas around the school? There's not very much parking available, and will they have to take those areas? So the question here, I think it's related to Eastwood, and I'm assuming this is Ms. Fegley. Ms. Fegley, can you expand on that?
The rec programs at Eastwood? I don't know what programs are at Eastwood.
Yeah. Okay.
There is not very much parking in front of that school. They had the top lot in the front of the school. They just extended and moved it in back with the parking. And if they put the police station in there, they're going to have more parking than what's available up there now. And we have all our